What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Week 10 episode of the PTW podcast, coming to you live from the Bay Area. Hope you're doing well. My name is Amir from I don't know why I said it like that, but it sounded kind of fun. My name is Amir from the PTW podcast. I am joined as always by my good friend Tassi the Football Greek. It is Week 10.
What's up?
It is Week 10,
Week
and there's
10.
a lot on the line. We are officially past the halfway point of the season.
Yeah.
And Toss, we're gonna just pull back the curtains for our viewers a little bit. We're going to do our best to give you a bite-sized version of the podcast moving forward. We're going to try to do half-hour, 35-minute episodes to give you the most meat as possible in those 35 minutes. A little less fluff or substance.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that works out. But hey, man, both of our teams are ready. They got big games this week.
They do.
They do. I got a Monday night game on a holiday. I mean, you can't ask for more eyeballs, man. Veterans Day Monday night football game. Dolphins Rams. That's gonna be fun. But yeah, man, let's get started, dude. Let's start with the game that kicked off Week 10. Thursday night football. You know, we started the season complaining about Thursday night football and how it was like terrible game after terrible game, and they kept giving us division games that were just awful, and that was true for the first like 6 or 7 weeks, and then lo and behold, the last few weeks of Thursday night football have been quite good. But I think nothing more fun than last night's Cincinnati versus Baltimore game.
Yes.
Talk about a firecracker of a game, man. Cincinnati gets an early lead, gets it to 21-7. Baltimore comes back, evens the score. Actually is about to even the score, misses the extra point. And then so they're down by 1. They score another touchdown anyways to make it 26-20. Go for the 2-point conversion. They get the 2-point conversion, 28-21, excuse me. Cincinnati then scores a touchdown, and instead of trying to tie it, they go for 2.
Yeah.
And that's where all the shenanigans and controversy took place, man. Break it down for us. What happened?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, if you went against Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow in fantasy, your weekend is ruined.
Yeah, pretty much.
because they scored like 70 points each. But so I know one person in my league has them as their quarterback and wide receiver combo, and they scored like almost 130 points between the two of them. So that is a bad week for their opponent. They just might as well go walk around and watch the sunset, on Sunday.
Yeah, just put your Yahoo Fantasy app on mute pretty much for the weekend.
Because they're not going to win that match. So, but yeah, man, the game was great. It was a great back and forth game. The big turning point was the Chase Brown fumble.
Yes.
Cincinnati was up 21-7. They're driving. Baltimore could not stop them all game. And Chase Brown with an unfortunate fumble. He had a really good game otherwise, but as Zach Moss, my sleeper of the year, not so much anymore guy. Now Chase Brown, the sleeper of the year, essentially, because he had a huge game fantasy wise, but that fumble definitely hurt him. And then after that, it was like back and forth. Baltimore came back. Lamar did Lamar things. And then, Jamar Chase, I mean, what a game. What a performance. 3 touchdowns.
Oh, absolutely.
260 yards, or how many yards did he have? It was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
He had 2 long touchdowns, and they had the last touchdown to tie the game. They decided to go for 2, and then they decide to run kind of a dumb play. But, there was, again, in the end, the refs cannot get the calls right. I mean, there was a clear, like I saw one angle, it was like 3 face masks on one play, one play basically, like in one shot. Joe Burrow's getting the face mask. The guy behind him, the lineman's like face masking the guy, and then the guy on the ground. The one guy's face masking too. Like one hand he's got Joe Burrow, the other hand he's got the other lineman's face mask. It was
Yeah.
just ridiculous. No call. Mike Gesicki got, like held at the line as well. And, it was a brutal last 2-point conversion play that should have resulted in a penalty and a retry, but the refs did failed at their job once again, as usual, and they ended up losing the game. So what are you gonna do? Like when it comes down to like cheating in the last play of the game, like you're not gonna call a penalty, but you'll call them all the rest of the game, but not when it really matters. So
yeah, and I think in that position, and I agree with you, by the way, 1000%. Like those are missed calls, but it's there's also a part of me that thinks like they might even be trained that like when it's like that late in the game, it's that sort of scenario.
yeah,
Like you as a ref don't want the response. I don't know if you want the responsibility of like dictating who wins the game and who doesn't win the game. I mean, they kind of indirectly did, but like if you call those penalties, then like what if there's a good, maybe you saw it right, maybe you didn't see it right, maybe it was a face mask, maybe it kind of wasn't a face mask, and then all of a sudden, Cincinnati gets this other chance, and like Baltimore turns around, and so it's this is why I keep saying the job of the NFL ref is not as relevant anymore. Like when you have 30 some odd, 40 some odd 4K plus cameras in those stadiums that are capturing every freaking detail of every freaking play. All you need is like one person, a la XFL or UFL now, up in the stands, if you will, up in the box seats or whatever, that has all the screens in front of them. Just call it in. Hey, that was a face mask. Push that. That's a flag. No, that doesn't count. We'll have them do it again. That's it.
Yeah.
Done.
It's very simple because the play is dead anyway. So if it happened during the play, like you can simply just call the penalty retroactive and be like, okay, there was a face mask here. We saw it on video. It was clear. It should be adjudicated. Let's go ahead and give them another chance.
It adds drama to the game. I don't know if it baffles. It's mind boggling to me. It baffles my mind that like we're going into 2025 and like this is still an issue.
Yeah,
and you're a multi-billion-dollar, entity in the NFL, and it's all up to whether or not those dudes see the play correctly or not. Like, we'll see it. As long as we'll train them as best as we can. It's like, no, dude. There's so much money on the line in these things. And like conspiracy theories, right? Of like, well, that's probably why. But like, there's so much money on the line in these things that it would behoove you, I would think, to get this stuff right. So you don't get the narrative of like, oh, the Chiefs, for example, the Chiefs are only winning because of the refs, or like, Cincinnati only lost because the refs didn't catch the things. Like, wouldn't you want to eliminate that narrative? And like, the narrative is like, no, this was just the better team. This was just the team that like won fair and square. Like, shouldn't that be the narrative as opposed to, again, we're talking about the refs?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, like, because the Bengals really played so well and the game was so well played. Like, you want them to have the fair chance at the end to win the game, not like have the Ravens just commit penalties everywhere. Like everywhere they could possibly commit a penalty. Like literally there was like 4 different penalties on the play, and then like them not get the opportunity to win the game. Like at least if you're gonna lose, allow the play to be a legal play. And then if they stop them, they stop them. They don't. So like, I think that's just my thing. So, unfortunately it is what it is. And, like, I think the NFL likes the drama, like the controversy. They get lots of clicks. They get lots of likes. They get lots of eyeballs. And, it keeps that machine rolling. So, it is what it is. Great game. Great win for Baltimore. Lamar really balled out, making his case for MVP. I think at this point he's probably the front runner for NFL MVP. So we'll see how things go next week for Baltimore and Cincinnati. But that was a huge change because if Cincinnati wins that game, they're a game behind Baltimore, and they're 2 games still behind Pittsburgh. Now Cincinnati is, basically 3 games behind Baltimore.
Yeah.
Like they don't have much of a chance to catch them in division, and it's going to be hard for them to make the playoffs, even as like a 7 seed. But they still have a chance. But they're going to be fighting with the likes of the Jets and these other like bubble teams to get in. So
it's getting awfully crowded in that AFC kind of sniffing it area, if you will.
Exactly.
The ones that are on the bubble, like they're not quite the 7 seed, 6 seed, but they're close, and it's gonna get really crowded towards the end of the year. Saucy, I have some good news for you, man. It seems like the number 1 fantasy player of the offseason will finally be seeing some action 9 weeks, 10 weeks into the season. Christian McCaffrey, you tell me, is he officially back or not?
He's back, man. I mean, Kyle Shanahan announced it this week. McCaffrey's back. He's going to be starting. It's yet to be seen like what his workload's going to be like. I fully expect him not to get like 30 carries, like be on the field the whole time. The Niners have shown they have 2 real capable guys in Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerrero to help, like carry the burden, the load. But having a guy like Christian McCaffrey who, can get you 50, like at this point, I would say like 15 to 20 touches. I mean, I think even that one might be a stretch, but having a guy like the offensive player of the year, probably the best, running back in the NFL back, the most dynamic kind of guy out of the backfield, catching the ball, running the ball, potentially throwing the ball. We've seen him do it all. This guy is basically, really the Niners like MVP, the guy that kind of makes the engine run, and having him back is going to be a huge boost to the Niners and to their chances of making the playoffs, because at this point they've put themselves in this position because they've made those terrible losses to LA and Arizona. But like, because if they won those games, like we wouldn't be talking about it. It'd be pretty simple. They'd be 6-2.
You'd be a 6-2 team,
and they'd be pretty much be easing into the division, winning the division, and being
you'd be 3-0. You'd be 3-0 in the division. As opposed to
But because of those 2 games, because of those 2 10-point blown fourth quarter leads, the Niners are in this position where they're going to have to win this game. This is a must-win game for them. They cannot, because if you look at like the Rams schedule, you look at Arizona's schedule. I mean, Seattle's still in it, but I feel like they're the one team that I would say that they have the least chance to make the playoffs.
I don't think they're making the playoffs.
But like looking at the schedules, like the Niners have to beat Tampa Bay, because they've got Tampa Bay, they have Seattle. They need to get to 6 wins. And I know this is what I was kind of saying last week. This is what I actually thought they would get 7 wins out of the last 9, but they have to get at least 6 to get to 10 wins on the season, I think, to get the division crown this year based on how the divisions were. And if you look at Arizona's schedule, I think they have a last place schedule because of their, because of where they were last year, where they finished. And so they have they kind of an easy schedule down the stretch, and the chances of them getting to 10 wins is pretty high at this point. So they're going to have to, it's going to be interesting because, like looking at the schedule at the beginning of the year, you saw that Arizona in the last game of the season, and like, how is that going to, like, oh, that was just going to be an easy Niners win or whatever. They might not like, rest their starters. Right. And now that's probably going to be for the division, the last game of the season. So
very well could be.
Probably, I think at this point there's a very good chance of that being the case. So Niners have to come out. They got to beat Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's beat up, but honestly, they're a tough team, man. They showed some real heart against Kansas City.
Very tough.
It probably could have beat Kansas City, like if it wasn't for Mahomes' miracle ankle, whatever, like all of a sudden it's broken. Next thing you know, he's like out there playing again and doing his thing. And it's like, I don't know if the guy's just a drama queen or what.
That was the best drive I've seen all year. I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. He did lead. That overtime drive was
pretty
something
good drive
else
at the end there to win. You got to give the guy credit. He does what he does. And but Tampa Bay definitely showed some heart in that game, and I think they're going to be a tough opponent. They're going to be a tough beat, but I think the Niners are healthy, and they're going to come out and they're going They're going to dominate this game. So I think it's going to be back to basics for them, getting a good win.
I'm very interested in how that. I'm very interested in how that game plays out. I'm both as a litmus test for the Niners, but also just kind of, does Tampa Bay respond from what happened with Kansas City last week on Monday night?
Yeah.
And then what does CMC look like? Obviously, right? And I think you're right. I think you give them no more than 10, 15 carries throughout the game, just kind of ease them into it, right? And look, and I know you don't want to hear this. I know it's must win, but it's not a division game, right? It is a conference game, but it's not a division game, right? So not the end of the world if they go 4-5, right? They could still make some ground, right? Beating the Cardinals again, the Rams again, the Seahawks again. Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on in this game. Now, what could arguably be the game of the week is something that at the beginning of the season you looked at it on paper and you just be like, all right, that's going to be a whatever game.
Yeah.
But in week 10, we've got the Washington Commanders going to Pittsburgh. You've got
that's in Washington, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Steelers going to Commanders. You're right. I'm sorry. Apologies.
It's all right.
The Steelers at 6-2, Commanders at 7-2, and this is going to be one for the ages, man.
Yeah.
This is as far as all the morning games go, this is the one I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah. So you got Russell Wilson.
There might be some fireworks in this game, man. I don't know.
Jaden Daniels, Russell Wilson. We got basically the offensive rookie of the year versus the like the comeback player of the year, right? And Russell Wilson, and like you talked about.
As I'm predicting, yes, the comeback player.
So honestly, it's going to be a good. So the real test is going to be Jaden Daniels against Pittsburgh's defense, because that I think is the real test here for him and for Washington's offense. Because Pittsburgh defense is the best defense in the league. They've shown it. They got T.J. Watt, the best defender in the league, probably going to be the DPOY. So I think that's really going to determine the outcome of this game. If they can put up points against Pittsburgh, I think they have a chance of winning the game. They're at home, which is a little bit of a bonus. But I think the way that Pittsburgh's been playing, and now that Russ has kind of like, gotten their offense going a little bit more, and they're able to score some points, because Justin Fields had a lot of trouble getting the offense going. He was having trouble scoring points, and all the games were close and low scoring. But now that Russell Wilson's like, he's starting to get a hold of the offense, and he's like going deep. He's taking shots to like George Pickens. And then now they just made another move, and they picked up another receiver here for Russ to throw to, so they got kind of like the in Mike Williams, and so like they've got some big targets out there for him, like some good guys like looking to go deep. Russ throws a great deep ball, so they're gonna pound the ball with Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, and then they're gonna take their deep shots with Russ to one of those guys. And I think in the end, like Pittsburgh just has too much, and they're gonna beat Washington, I think, in this game. So I know Washington's defense played better, but I think Pittsburgh is going to win this game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Bold prediction. I don't know. I'm yes. Okay. All right. Here's where my mindset is at.
Yeah.
My mindset is that you are 1,000% right in that Pittsburgh's defense is, I think, arguably the best defense in the NFL right now. So it will be a litmus test for Jaden Daniels as to whether or not he can respond or adjust, or is he going to be exposed? Like what's really going to happen in this game? But the thing that is impressing me about the Commanders as a whole is not just Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is a phenomenal story, but look at what's happening with Dan Quinn at the helm again. You're talking about a dude who took an Atlanta Falcons franchise to the Super Bowl, was on the cusp of winning that Super Bowl. And if You're a homeboy. That's stuck.
Was it really Kyle Shanahan's fault? I don't
I'm
know.
not saying it was his fault. But offensively, all of a sudden they stopped scoring points, man.
Yeah,
They were
28-3.
killing the Patriots, and then it
Yeah,
just stopped, right?
that was wild.
And talk about a redemption year for Dan Quinn, because he goes to the Cowboys and makes them a relevant, legitimate defense for
Yeah.
years and years and years and years, right? Builds them up, they were this upper echelon defense. But no, everyone always kind of thought, and Dan Quinn. I mean, he interviewed for tons of teams, dude.
Yeah.
And every team was like, and we're okay, and we're okay, and we're okay. We'll go with this shiny new toy over here. We'll go get, this coach over here. We'll get Zach Taylor. We'll get Mike McDaniel. We'll get Brian Flores. We'll get so-and-so, whatever. And now the Commanders, they hit the reset button. Dan Snyder is gone. And no one expected 7-2, right?
Yeah.
And you can sit here and say it's all Jaden Daniels.
No,
he's got a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But I'm very impressed with what Dan Quinn is doing.
Yeah, their defense is playing well. They're ranked really high defensively.
I'm rooting for him. So this is more emotion than logic, but I'm going to pick the Commanders only because I think this trajectory that they're on, this vibe that I get right now with them, and I know it, and it's a home game too. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Commanders. I could be completely off, but that's where I'm going. But I love what Russ is doing in Pittsburgh, right? Also like redemption year, right? So
for sure,
go back to the idea of it's not just the player, it's the scheme, it's the coaching, it's the organization, it's freaking everything. Look at Christian McCaffrey, right? Okay,
exactly.
All right, folks. Week 10 has no shortage of really cool games that are taking place with huge ramifications. We are going to spend the next few minutes talking about our top 3 picks for week 10. What games we think are safe bets, for lack of a better word. What's going to happen, basically. As I pull up the schedule, let's have you start. What are the 3 games that you're looking at as, surefire wins, or they should go, the result is not going to be a surprise to you?
Yeah. So the first game that really stands out, sounds like the Minnesota versus Jacksonville. It looks like Trevor Lawrence is going to be out for the game. He potentially could miss the rest of the season. They're talking about some type of surgery potentially, but he's out. Jacksonville is done. Minnesota is going to roll. So that's like one of my safe bets of the week, essentially. The other game that I really like is the Falcons versus the Saints. Falcons are rolling. They're doing their thing. Derek Carr has been crushed, based on, how his play's been, how he's kind of led receivers into trouble, and, basically almost got Chris Olave killed. So I think, Atlanta, keeps it rolling here, and I think they'll be they'll be 7-3 by that point.
7-3 if they win the game against the Saints. Yeah.
So yeah, I think Atlanta rolls, and they're going to cruise to the division win this year, I think. And then the other game is the Eagles versus the Cowboys. Cowboys, man, they're done. They're done.
Yeah, it's over for them. It's been a rough year.
Dak's going on IR. He has a hamstring injury. He's going to miss at least 4 games, if not the whole season, the rest of the season. They're going to bring in Cooper Rush. I know last year with Cooper Rush, and you mentioned it too, they were 4-1 under him. Mm-hmm. I think there's a good chance that he's going to play well, but he's not the greatest quarterback, and I feel like that was kind of a flash in the pan. It's a division matchup here. They got Philly coming in. They're looking to end Dallas, and I think they're going to do that this week. So give me Philly this week. I think those are my 3 surefire bets, the week for W's. So Minnesota, Atlanta, Philadelphia. Those are my 3 picks. Go ahead.
Let
with
me
yours.
ask you a question. If I'll get to mine in a second. Let me ask you a question. If Philly comes into Dallas and steamrolls them, all right, in Dallas, that stadium starts booing. Do you think Mike McCarthy gets let go? Or now that Dak is on IR, he's basically got an excuse for the next 4 weeks?
I think he's got an excuse. I don't think Jerry Jones is going to fire him at this point. They're just going to let him play off. He'll be a lame duck coach. He'll get fired at the end of the year, though, I think. So I think they're going to move on. But I don't think they're going to fire him during the season. I think they're just going to, at this point, it's probably just tank time. And, they're probably going to lose some more games here at the end of the year. And, unfortunately for Dallas, it just never materialized this year. They just weren't good from the outset. And, they're going to look to next year to see, with a new coach, to see if they can get back to being a dominant team. But I think losing Dan Quinn was a big deal for them. Losing them as their D coordinator. I think that really hurt them. And, obviously the injuries have been pretty bad. Losing Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, now, Dak Prescott, their quarterback. That's tough. Brandon Cooks, another guy who was solid for them on offense. And then just never really establishing the run game until Rico Dowdle actually hasn't played bad when they've given him the majority of the carries. He's actually a decent running back, but they decided they were going to try and go with Zeke, and then Zeke's kind of had some attitude issues and got suspended. So there's a lot of drama in that locker room, a lot of things going on. So like I was saying, I think Dallas at this point is done, but Mike McCarthy won't get fired probably until the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree with that. As I was asking the question, I realized that with Dak going on IR, I'm like, okay, no, probably not.
He got that's a built-in excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Baked in.
Okay.
For now.
So I'm going to try to pick 3 different games than the ones that you did, just to kind of spice it up a little bit. All right. Yeah. So the first game that I'm looking at is Chargers and Titans. And I only say this because last week you and I were both convinced that the Cleveland Browns were going to beat the LA Chargers. And we were so wrong. It wasn't even funny.
So wrong.
I think I keep forgetting that Jim Harbaugh is the coach of this team.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
And look, I know they're not having a phenomenal year, but they're 5-3. They're not having a bad year. It's just that you're not seeing plays of Justin Herbert bombing it like he did in his rookie season. You're seeing a much more subdued, methodical approach to winning games.
Yeah, defense and running ball. That's Harbaugh's thing. Defense and running the ball.
Yeah,
and that's what they're doing.
Suck. The Titans suck.
The Titans are terrible.
They're terrible.
I think Will Levis is gonna play. He's terrible. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's another easy pick. Easy pick. LA Chargers.
The Chargers are winning. The next one, it's going to be controversial, but you know what? I don't care. The Cardinals, in my opinion, are beating the Jets. I think the Jets win last week was fluky. I think it said more about the Houston Texans than it did about the New York Jets. I really do. And if I'm wrong this week, then I will come on this podcast and I will own it. But I am not convinced, especially with them trading. Who did they trade? Which receiver?
Mike Williams.
They traded Mike Williams. Okay, yeah, sure, you don't need him anymore, but okay, you're just willy-nilly getting rid of some of your offensive talent. All good. I think that was an indication more of the Texans not being who we thought they were versus the Jets being who we thought they were, right?
Yeah.
So I think the game's in Arizona. I think Kyler Murray is playing out of his mind these last few weeks.
They are playing well.
And they're playing well. I think they win that. I wouldn't say an easy win, but I think they win that. My third game is about the aforementioned Houston Texans playing the Detroit Lions at home. Detroit, in my opinion, listen, bro, I've said this already. I don't think anyone steps in Detroit's way the rest of the season. I really, truly don't. I know they got some division games coming up, so those division games are always kind of hairy.
Yeah.
You were saying that Lamar Jackson is front runner for MVP. I would argue that Jared Goff is front runner for MVP as well. I know he's not blowing it up, but when you're throwing 16, 17 passes consecutively without a drop in consecutive games over and over and over again, you're having a special year, bro.
He
and
really
they
is.
lose Aiden Hutchinson and they don't miss a beat. This team has got heart. This team has got fire. This team, it could be destiny, man, for them to make it to the Super Bowl. Like that it could be this the road is wide open for them to get it there. So I will kind of 3B in the background because I don't have terrible faith in my team, but I do think the Dolphins do win this week against the Rams if they play the same way that they played the last 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks, scoring 27 points and both losing both games to walk-off field goals.
Yeah,
I think they maybe figure it out this week, get back in the win column, go to 3-6, but they're not part of my 3. My 3 are the Chargers beating the Titans at home in LA, the Cardinals beating the Jets at home in Arizona, and the Lions going on the road against the Houston Texans and taking care of the Lions. Those are my top 3 for week 10.
Nice. I mean, I'm with you on those 3. I think the Lions are steamrolling. I don't think the Texans are as good as we thought they were. They really haven't shown it all year. And I do think that Miami gets a win in LA this week. So I'm with you. I think finally
from your mouth to God's ears, Tossie. Your mouth to the football God's ears.
Let's go. He's on my fantasy team. I want to see him at least score a couple touchdowns. Come on, man. I love big game.
What a season.
What a weird season, bro.
What a weird season that he haven't scored. He scored 1 touchdown in week 1. And that is it. That is all she wrote.
From folks, number 1 player in the NFL to 1 touchdown.
1 touchdown.
As ranked by Spears.
It's pretty bad. But nonetheless, we'll see how it plays out. Folks, we hope you enjoyed this truncated version. Man, I feel like we just got started and like the podcast is over, but we're at 32 minutes right now. It's incredible. Nonetheless, we hope you like this truncated version of the PTW podcast. If you did, let us know in the comment section down below, and we'll continue on the trajectory of picking 3 or 4 topics and talking about them and making this more bite-sized, if you will. Until next time, if you can do us the biggest favor, like and subscribe, like this video and subscribe to the PTW podcast, and make sure to follow us wherever you're listening to wherever you listen to podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for being part of our PTW podcast episode, and we will see you all Monday night.
Yeah, let's go, Niners. Let's go.
After a Dolphins win.
Start rolling, Niners. Let's go. It's time now to show up.
Later, guys.